The Goliad Massacre took place on Palm Sunday, March 27th, 1836. It was an event during the Texas Revolution that culminated in the execution of 342 unarmed soldiers from Texas. Events that ultimately led to this atrocity actually began back on November 15th of 1835. A squad of 28 men from New Orleans had joined Texas in their fight for independence. The American army soon after captured and executed these men as pirates. President Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna waited to judge the United States' response. He found that the U.S.'s general feelings were that the Mexican government was well within their rights. Upon seeing this reaction, Santa Anna then urged the Mexican Congress to pass what became the Decree of December 30th, 1885. In it, they declared that all foreigners taken in arms against the government should be treated as pirates and shot. James Fannin was the commander of those who were to be executed at Goliad. Fannin proved to be quite a weak and uncoordinated leader. Fannin sent several troops to aid in Refugio and another band of troops to hunt down a band of suspected spies. All this despite the warnings of Sam Houston against sending out small parties. Despite receiving orders to retreat to Victoria on March 13th, Fannin didn't begin to retreat until March 19th. After a short time, a cart broke and a cannon became stuck in the San Antonio River, which took about an hour to recover. Then they had to stop again to let his oxen graze. Fannin showed his weakness as a commander again by doing this in an open prairie. Soon he was surrounded by Mexican forces. This map shows Fannin's position in the middle of the map and the surrounding Mexican forces that closed in to begin the Battle of Toledo. The battle only lasted one day, and on the 20th, Fannin negotiated surrender with the leader of the Mexican forces, General Jose de Urrea. Fannin's terms of surrender were simple. He wanted his troops to be taken as prisoners of war and have their private property respected and given back to them on their release. He wished for his men to be released after 8 days to the United States. These were common terms of surrender for the time, and General Urrea accepted, even though he knew that this was in direct violation with his nation's laws. Now, Urrea probably hoped to fulfill these terms, writing to Santa Anna that to continue battle would just lead to more senseless bloodshed. Urrea had a well-known distaste for the decree of December 30th, having captured enemies at the Battle of San Patricio and remitting them to Matamoros, despite having direct orders from Santa Anna to have them executed. Urrea made exhaustive efforts to Santa Anna to save Fannin and his men and to instead use them as labor to rebuild the town around Goliad. However, Santa Anna would have no part of it. The soldiers were taken to Nuestra Senora de Laredo Presidio at La Bahia, now known as Goliad. Initially, 230 to 240 of the uninjured men arrived at first. Then over the next 2 days, 50 injured men, including Fannin himself, arrived. Finally, the 80 surviving men from Refugio were added to the total. Santa Anna's final order for execution was received on March 27th. Fearing that Urrea again would disobey orders, he sent a second order to the officer commanding the post of Goliad. The order was received by Colonel Jose Nicolas de Portilla. This map shows the fort at Goliad where the prisoners were held. March 28th, 1836. All the uninjured soldiers were separated into 3 groups and told they were going out to do various work. They were marched in different directions about a half-mile outside of the town and suddenly were given a halt command. Seemingly out of nowhere, the Mexican troops opened fire. Most of the prisoners were killed on the first shot. Those who survived were hunted down and shot and stabbed to death. Only 27 of the men were known to have escaped. The remaining injured men were lined up inside Goliad and shot. The last person to be executed was James Fannin. He had 3 final requests: that his personal belongings be sent to his family, that he be shot in the heart, and that he be given a Christian burial. He was shot in the face, and after the soldiers stole his things, they burned his body with the rest of the Texans and left them above ground. On June 3rd, while pursuing retreating Mexican troops, General Thomas J. Rusk found the bodies of the victims of the Goliad Massacre and gave them a proper burial. Some of those who had escaped the massacre were present to see the funeral. This memorial now stands atop the grave of all those who died that day. The aftermath of these events was most likely not what Santa Anna had expected at all. Before this, he was seen as a crafty and wise leader. Now he was only seen as cruel. He had dealt several serious blows to the Texan army at this point, but there was a new revival in the Texans after this atrocity. With support coming in from the United States and even Great Britain and France, the Texan army pushed forward with new fervor and won Texas.